All right, we are live. Hello, everybody. Damn, that was a very quick chat post. Anyway, we are live. Hello, everybody. So good to be here with you. This is Bye, Dad. Sorry about that. This is Tad. He of Rosex Maps fame. Recently moving independent. Again, amicable breakup. I still love Elections Daily. Go follow them. Go watch their things, etc. It was just more of a COVID-affected, not enough time thing than anything else. So, you know, very, very amicable. It was great working with them. I can't wait to see what they do next. So, what was that? Sorry, the lights just flashed on and off for some reason. I don't know what happened.
I bumped the switch.
My dad bumped the switch. Okay. Bye. Anyway, so it's great being with y'all. So today, I got a very special guest, an interviewee, a very good friend of all of us on election Twitter. Genya Coulter herself, Ms. Election Babe. Please welcome her.
Hi, everyone.
Oh, and I should, because not everybody follows election Twitter as much as I do, I should probably state quickly that I happen to be homosexual and am not objectifying her. Election Babe is her Twitter handle. I should probably mention that before I get into some controversy. There will be more Rosex maps, but for the next couple of weeks, I have some interviews coming with some good friends, some congressional candidates, etc. So I've put that kind of on the back burner. You can still expect some Rosex maps, just not as often until after the election when there will be a lot of them. This is Walter, for everybody who doesn't know. I use my profile. So, do you wanna here? Let me. Oh, never mind. I was gonna try and edit your username to put your handle in there, but I guess that is your handle, so it's good enough. So anyway, yeah, I'd first like to say, how are you doing? How's the day? How's your son is a charmer. I'm sorry. You guys can tell that this was not prepared ahead of time. Oh my god. Oh my gosh.
You know, I'm making you be a poll worker when you turn 16, kid.
Just a few more years.
Yeah,
the chat has Albi. He's not on Twitter, but he knows me from Discord. Says that he loved your article on the California LA special election, and that it got him following Elections Daily.
Awesome. I'm very flattered. Thank you. It's a great site to write for.
So I guess why don't we get into our first question? What was it like writing for Elections Daily?
I genuinely enjoy it. It's Eric Cunningham is a wonderful editor-in-chief. He lets me be me, and he's not a micromanager, which is a good thing because I don't respond well to micromanaging. And the quality of the writers and reporters on there, it forces me to up my game and actually think about what I'm writing before I put it down on paper. Before I used to just half-ass it. But because there's so many amazing writers on the site now, I can't get away with that. I actually have to do some work and make something that's worth the time and of the readers.
Wow. Yeah, that makes sense. I have some article ideas to write for them, but I actually, I'm not that good of a writer. I've never considered myself good enough to write for them. That's why I do videos instead, because it speaks to my strengths, which is improvising, as opposed to sticking on topic for hours upon end.
Nobody's ever accused me of being able to stick on topic.
Yeah, me neither. And so about Elections Daily more specifically, you predicted the California 25th special election weeks in advance, and you were one of the only major prognosticators to not only get it right, but to figure out that Garcia would win by a very large margin. Congratulations, and how on earth? Hi, Chris. Chris is now in chat. We were talking about you before going live. All good things, I promise. Totally. Oh yeah, totally good things. Anyway, so California 25, you got it right. You were quite possibly the best of all the major forecasters. How did you do it? What did you notice that, say, Larry, my good friend Larry, our good friend Miles, Sean, that they didn't notice?
I'm from there. I mean, I wasn't born there, but I've spent my adolescence and part of my early adulthood there. And for the most part, I was just like plotting, how the hell do I get out of this place? I mean, it's what happened, it's basically where suburbia went to die in California. And I remembered the people there. In fact, most of my old friends in high school still on the voter rolls there. Actually, I'm still on the voter rolls there, and I'm not happy about it because I moved 7 years ago. But
somebody is going to commit some voter fraud. Shame on you.
It's not
Shame on you.
It's not voter fraud necessarily. It's just that there's an incentive to keep the voter rolls well padded. So because
I know. Because of what? Sorry, could you repeat that? You cut off at the end.
An incentive to not maintain the voter rolls because the allocation of election funds is not means tested. It's done based on your population. So obviously high population places get more money than lower population places. They don't assign it according to need, which drives me batty, but I don't make the rules, so.
So Robert Stewart, who is Ravens, Terps, Wizards on Twitter, he's from Maryland. He's a good friend of the Maryland Twitter, like inner circle on election Twitter. There are a lot of ET people from Maryland. Has said hi, thanks for the link. Great to see you. That's a good question. We will, Albi, we will be getting to that later, so I'll hold off on that. You are a poll worker and elections official. As I have been politely corrected before we went online, the correct title is elections official. How long have you been doing that? What's it like? And how do you enjoy it?
All right, so I've been in this about a little over 4 years, and it was a complete fluke. I did not plan to get into elections. They just kind of found me, and I basically fell into something that doesn't bore me because I can get bored very easily. And with elections, that doesn't happen. There's always something new to worry about. There's always a new fire to put out. There's always something that can be done to make the process better for everybody. And I like the challenge of that. And as far as what it's like, there are days where it's really calm, sedate, shall we say, boring. And then there's other days where you're pretty much stripped of the fear of God. It just depends on what election it is.
There are many people from Shaker Heights, Ohio. Christos. Okay, I'm Polish. I should be able to pronounce Eastern European names, but I can't, so I'm not going to bother trying and embarrassing him and myself. So Christos, we all know him. He is from Shaker Heights, Ohio. Very, very good person. Excellent, very nice ties.
Yes, my son's really into ties, so he and Christos are pretty much kindred spirits.
Yes. So anyway, so we did that. Before we get into our meat and potatoes, can I call you Genya on stream, or would you prefer Election Babe, or what?
Actually, soft G, it's Genya, or you can just call me G if you'd like.
That seems a little too informal. I don't know you well enough. Anyway,
you may call me Genya, or if you want to be really formal, you may address me as your clerkness.
Your what?
Your clerkness. Your clerkness.
Your clerkness.
That's all what right, I make my children call them. They're bad.
Your clerkness. What do you think of Walter?
I think Walter's absolutely beautiful with well delineated markings, and he looks nice and fluffy.
Yeah, he is nice and fluffy. Oh, believe you me, he's nice and fluffy. Anyway, so you currently live in Florida, correct?
Yes.
How long have you been living there? What was the first presidential election you were in Florida?
That was 2016, which was the first year I got into elections.
So you got into elections depending on when, either 2 years before me or 2 months after me or somewhere in between. I kind of got into elections around the Trump escalator thing, when he went down the escalator in Trump Tower. I don't know why. Maybe it was just because I was starting to mature at that time, and that was just what happened. I'm still not out of high school yet, so it's not exactly. The first memory I have of elections is in 2008, when President Obama was giving his victory speech, and my parents were staying up way too damn late to watch it, and they were crying as expected because, I'm not going to say anything because it's personal, but and they asked 5-year-old me whether I wanted to watch with them, and I said no, that sounds boring, and I went off to bed early. Now 17-year-old me does not want to go to bed at all. So what's your first political memory?
My mom is very much a liberal Democrat, and my grandfather was a union organizer, and one of his joys was elections. So I remember watching election returns with him when I was really little. And I'm a lot more I'm not a conservative per se. I'm actually I'm straight down the political axis. I'm dead center, maybe slightly to the left libertarian. So
I'm gonna have some questions about that. Don't you worry. We will come back to that.
But my friends were always a lot more liberal than I was. So by comparison, I would seem really conservative. But at one point when I was in high school, I wanted to be Dick Morris. I wanted to be a political consultant. Like I don't have the ego or the desire to ever run for office, because what they would do to me, what they did Katie Hill would be nothing compared to what they would do to me. And
we don't need to know.
I like the idea of, being the power behind the throne. And then I kind of decided I hated politics, although I'd always voted. And I just started, I screwed off and decided to become a DJ. And then I wound up being a stay-at-home mom. So getting back into elections, I remember with 2016 thinking it was very different when you worked behind the scenes than when you were actually out there, like on TV. Because I would go home, I'd have no idea what was going on in the world. The only thing I knew was what the voters were talking about.
Yeah. I'm sorry. You're just a funny individual, and I'm in a funny mood. I've been doing a lot of homework. So it's been clearing up. I'm taking health over the summer, so because it's a boring as hell class, and I don't want to have to waste a slot taking it next year, so I'm taking it now over the summer. Get the boredom out of the way right now while I can. Albai said hi, Jenya's son. Yeah, he is apparently an angel, but as we all know, kids are awful. If my sister is anything to go by, he's probably a monster. But that's just me poking fun at my sister.
He's never met a person he didn't like. He's actually very pleasant. Like it's like if he doesn't like you, something's wrong with you, because he likes everybody.
See, with my sister, it's the opposite. If she does like you, something's wrong with you. If she doesn't like you, that's actually a good thing. Except for, of course, for our next door neighbors, who are amazing people and who she's known since we were babies. And well, she was a baby since I was a little bit older. You know what? Anyway, let's get back to the interview. This is what I meant when I said about 5 minutes ago that I get off topic very easily. I ramble a lot. Chris wants to say hi. Anyway, so as I said, I ramble a lot. So, Jenya, if you hear me rambling, please feel free to interrupt me and get me back on track. I'm not going to take that as an offense in any way. I'm used to it.
Maybe I should start a GoFundMe for an online cattle prod.
Online cattle prod?
It's basically just like get you in, just like and get you back in focus. I'm kidding. I'm not that horrible in real life most of the time.
That's good. In 2016, especially, that was a year when most of the forecasters were completely shocked. Even the good ones, Cook, Crystal Ball, IE, even the top notch of the game. I'll get back to that. Even the top notch forecasters, while they said that Donald Trump had a chance, good for them, props off, they underestimated his likelihood of winning. A lot of people were very confused when the early returns started coming in from places like Pennsylvania, places like Michigan, New Hampshire, and most importantly to us, Florida, which does happen to be 95% on the East Coast, except for a few counties that really deserve to be in the East Coast time zone, but aren't for some dumb reason. Anyway, so as Florida results were coming in, were you a poll worker at the time? I'm sorry, an elections officer.
I was a poll worker, and I was actually running the polling place by November 2016.
That is quick. That's awesome. Man, they found your skill early. So I don't know where it was. What county was it? Just wondering. Don't say Broward.
Polk County. It's pretty much smack dab in the middle of Florida.
Yes. I would have lost a lot of respect for you if you had said Broward County. But you didn't. So
I won't even go there, but yeah, I get it.
So as the returns were coming in, you would have obviously not been allowed to disclose what happened, but as you were counting the ballots, what did you notice?
I wasn't really shocked by the results, because one of the things that I can tell you is I worked 2 weeks of early voting, and early voting, there was a pivot right around day 5. And that was when I believe
for us who are not in Florida, what day is day 5? Like, is that October, November?
2 weeks of early voting. It started in October, so I'd say it was around Halloween.
So maybe day approximately the Comey line.
Yeah, and I do remember there was this pivot, and a lot more people wearing red hats or MAGA hats were coming in than people who were wearing blue or were telling me that they were voting, they're voting for the Democrat. It was interesting to watch, because remember, voters can discuss their political opinions, but I cannot allowed to answer. So I'm nonpartisan anyway, but it was just really fascinating to see just how drastic the swing was. And also, I will say Trump did a couple of rallies in my county, and most candidates do not stop in my county. It is this big stretch of rural nowhere in between the places people want to go, which is Tampa and Orlando. And I honestly,
the I-4 corridor. It's an
yes,
I-4 corridor. Okay.
Yes, we are the I-4 corridor. I can honestly say that if Hillary Clinton had bothered to do a rally in Polk County, she might have engendered more goodwill, and she probably could have pulled it off. I mean, I remember during the primary, Trump didn't win the primary, at least not at the precinct I was at. Ted Cruz did.
Ted Cruz had a lot of strength in the southern states, as many Republicans were turned off by President Trump's having, for example, 3 wives, or a history of... I want to try and stay nonpartisan on the show, as I do plan to interview Democrats and Republicans and independents and whatever, but I'm just going to say it, sexist comments and racist comments. You may like the man, you may not like him, whatever. I'm not going to judge you for it, but he has said some pretty awful things.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, it's like there's always you always learn there's a good time in life when to learn to just shut up. Unfortunately, I don't think anybody ever taught Trump that, so there's not much we can do about it. But I do think a lot of the things he said are detrimental. On the other hand, there's the First Amendment, so it's kind of a wash there. As much it's just, I wish somebody had told him, dude, shut up. It won't kill you.
I remember Charlie Cook with the Cook Political Reports wrote an analysis in 2019 that was basically talking about how, this was before COVID, of course, about how President Trump's approval ratings on the economy were in the 60s, but his approval ratings in general were in the 40s. And he said, Cook had mentioned that was the biggest gap between economic approval and normal approval that he had ever seen. And that he had hypothesized that, he had hypothesized that much of that difference was due to his blatantly awful personal behavior. And how many people may say he's done this good things for us, but he's also just, a jerk. And it caused that. Does that make any sense to you? What do you think about that hypothesis?
It does. And it also explains why we generally allow rich people to act like absolute nightmares. And because they're donating money or they're hiring or the economy's good, we'll let them get away with it. It's like people, it's like our idol. We do not have a twilight of idols until things start taking a downturn and our idols aren't exactly providing any leadership guidance or financial support. That's when we turn on them and tear down the statues. Not before then.
Chris Butler in the comments actually mentioned before my question, quote, Trump was rich OFC, probably for, of course, that tying into what you said. Very much. You know what? I feel like he's not going to go away until we've covered this. So, how is your son? How is your son? How are you enjoying your stay at home, your staycation?
How are you enjoying the quarantine?
I enjoyed it.
I figured the kids are loving it. Just playing on the computer all the time or reading books like I do. The parents, maybe not.
No, it's all right. I homeschool him anyway, so.
That makes sense. That makes sense. I was homeschooled for a year after, in 4th grade, in 5th grade, one of the assistant principals was very, very racist and sexist, but in the other order, like towards white people and towards men, which was weird. I was not expecting that anywhere, and especially not in my upscale, white Karen neighborhoods. But I left the school because of the hostile environment. I don't need to talk about it. It's not what we're here for. I'm here to interview the lovely Miss Coulter. Or I'm sorry, your clerkness. I have not reread LOTR on Quarantine. However, I plead innocent because I am reading it to my mother, who is 50-some years old and has never read it. So I say that I'm still doing a good job because while I am not rereading it, I am functionally rereading it as I am reading it to her. It's something we do for family bonding. We don't really. I mean, we all focus on the internet in our family, but we read. We read a lot. We play games. But anyway, I can talk about this on my own streams. I'm not having you here to listen to me ramble on about my home life. As I said, I ramble a lot. So next question. 2000 election. I told you this was going to be happening before we went live to give you time, and yep, we will be what was that? We will be talking about it. Okay. Anyway, so as we all know, it was decided there was a 1,500 vote Gore lead that got cut to a 10 vote Gore lead, to a 30 vote Bush lead, and eventually Bush pulled out by 537 votes. I think it was 500 and some number of votes. And then that was already mid-December. It was approaching the time when the electors need to call to make their votes in December. I think it was the 19th that year. I don't remember for certain. And the Supreme Court stepped in 5-4, the Gore-Bush decision. Now you're not 537. Thank you. Yes, I was right. I was right. Boom. And so you were not in Florida at the time, apparently, but being a Florida native, what do you think? Am I going to interview 90-year-old Al Gore on my stream? Listen, if he wanted to come on my stream, I would interview a former presidential contender, hands down. Like, are you kidding me? My stream right now has about 10 people watching it. If I interview Al Gore, that number goes up to like 1 million. Yes, I would interview Al Gore.
Yeah, well, we put Tad?
That is my name. I am Tad. Yes. Now where was I? Oh yes. So Florida, right? Recounts. So what do you think
of the 2000 election? All right.
Yes.
I generally think
but
that
specifically Florida. Don't talk about the other states. Don't talk about how, for example, Missouri could have flipped or like New Hampshire. Just Florida.
All right. So what happened was Gore conceded too early and against the advice of some people close to him. And that was what started the whole court mess. Had he held out and been like, I'm not conceding until everything's settled and final, I think things might have actually worked out better for him. But because he conceded early, he didn't really have as much of a leg to stand on in court.
Okay. Do you think that the courts would have still stopped the recount if it was, say, the day before the electors needed to meet to cast the official votes, or would they have just delayed that?
That's a good question, and I think it depends on the justice. But I do get the feeling the Supreme Court was pissed that they had to get in. They got dragged into this. I don't blame them.
If you look at Gallup's historical polls, that was around the time that public opinion in the Supreme Court took a nosedive, and it's still been very high. It's still the highest of the three branches, but it's definitely a lot more partisan now than it used to be pre-2000s, justified or unjustified.
So what happened was the Supreme Court did the states are in charge of elections, and that is very clear in the Constitution. The federal government is limited in what they can do, and that includes the courts. And I do think the Supreme Court was extremely irritated that they had to sit in on this. They really would have rather the state court had settled it, and because they didn't, I think that bore some effect on the results. And also, again, this is where Gore's early concession really came back to bite him in the butt.
What else? So, am I doing my Elections Daily streams? Unfortunately not. Elections Daily only gets 20 hours a month on a StreamYard account. And unfortunately, my streams did not cut it. I'm a little bit disappointed, but, hopefully I'll come back on their other shows and maybe be a guest. I still got lots of knowledge to share. And I am looking forward to that. Eric, I might write for them or something. Eric's still a good friend of mine. Harrison's a good friend of mine, but there just wasn't enough time for me, unfortunately. It is what it is. Of course I'm upset, right? Like it was fun to do that, but it's not my website. I don't have a say in how it's run, and I'm, it's like, it's fine. It's all's well that ends well in the past. RRH does not have a YouTube channel. Believe me, I would love to stream with them. That would be pretty awesome. Maybe I should post some of my stream links to RRH. Like every so often, I write an article about, or I write a diary on RRH, and maybe I should just post the links at the start of that diary. Anyway, so we've been vacillating between 5 and 10 viewers. That's lower than normal, but it is what it is. I'm having fun. Fewer viewers, certainly they're active in chat. Anyway, that was a good 90 seconds of me rambling. Let's get back to the interview. I am so sorry. So in 2020, if the national margins tighten by just a few percent, it's looking that it might come out to another case of a few outside swing states having great national importance. And none of these swing states is more valuable, both in terms of raw electoral votes, in terms of percentages, in terms of turnout values, in terms of swing voters, and in terms of closeness. Closeness? How close? I guess how close the margin was. I'm not sure if close isn't the right word. Than Florida. It is the eponymous swing state, been a swing state for decades, and shows no sign of stopping that. What do you feel like the ground game in Florida is doing right now for Biden and Trump?
Okay, the Republicans have got a clear advantage as far as how embedded they are, especially in the Hispanic and Spanish-speaking community. They have a significant chunk of voter outreach there. One of the things about Rick Scott is Rick Scott was smart. He speaks fluent Spanish, and he started running ads on Univision and Telemundos. And I can honestly say that although most Hispanic or Latino voters are no party affiliated in Florida, there are enough of them that are NPA that will vote Republican purely because they met them at their level and with language. And as far as Biden, Biden's doing well here, I think polling wise, at least far better than I think he expected, especially with the way his polls looked prior to the first primary. I think his Hispanic or Latino outreach it's not bad, but it really, really need to up their game. And there actually know quite a few people who would love to help him with that problem. So if you're a Biden organizer, hit me up. I can put you in touch. Mm-hmm. And it's been interesting. And it's been interesting to see which counties have been creeping more blue for president and versus the ones that they're going to stay red. And some of them were actual surprises.
Duval County, for example, I think that is projected to flip red to blue in 2020. I did already do that in 2016. I can't remember. I remember it was trending red and it was supposed to flip one of these years. As I've mentioned on all my streams, I don't know county names, basically ever. I would point 2012 and 2008 as contrary to that statement. Now, next question. So you mentioned that that there's this weird thing that while the gender gap between men and women is projected to be the largest it has ever been, the racial gap is projected to be the smallest it's ever been, but smallest in decades, as President Trump is gaining ground vastly with Hispanics and slightly with Africans and losing with Caucasians. Is there a good reason for this? Do you think this is going to hold up? Would you explain this?
I think in a lot of cases, the Democrats assume because they're the party of the people that minorities will automatically vote for them. And I think that's underestimating minority voters significantly. They vote for the most, because I grew up in areas where I was literally the only white person because all my neighbors were Asian or all my neighbors were Latino. So the candidates that make the effort to actually get to know the community, that aren't just pandering for votes, that are actually like, hey, how are you doing? I'm running for office. How can I make this better? They're going to get a lot more traction than the ones who are only nice to them come vote time.
There have been a lot of articles on this every 4 years, and every 4 years both parties ignore this problem, and nothing really changes.
I think it's to their peril, because one of the things that is interesting is people who are non-white folks do vote, and there's a lot there. Again, I think they feel neglected by most politicians, and they quite honestly they are, and they've been failed by a lot of by policies from all sides. And I'd really like to see more communication and politicians being able to earn the trust of the communities that they're going to be representing, not just the people who can donate the most money.
That's true, and the people who can donate the most money are much more Caucasian than the general population,
and they're also more liberal. Interesting.
Oh, much more liberal, yes. The people who are richer people are generally more conservative, but bigger donators are generally more liberal, and that's an interesting dichotomy, which I kind of
depends on if you're congenitally rich or not. If you're born, if you come from a wealthy family, you like status quos and you like low taxes, you're going to vote Republican. If you are really wealthy and in a creative field, if you vote Republican, you basically have to keep it in the closet. And if you are an entrepreneur, you might not agree with conservative ideology, but you sure as hell appreciate their tax and business policies, because they allow you to run your business without government constantly getting in the way.
I will say it was much easier to come out as both homosexual and transgender than it was to come out as a Republican by a large margin. Boy, it was very, very different.
I mean,
Very
I grew up in a town where that was really, I mean, yeah, it's Southern California, but it was hardcore conservative. And I was part of the first chapter my high school ever had of PFLAG. And even then, parents and friends of, I can't hear you. It was parents and friends of lesbians and gays, because most of my friends in high school were gay. They just weren't open about it.
We're about a third of the way through the interview. Normally I would extend it a bit longer, but we do have to cut off at 6:30 because I have a Dungeons and Dragons game to run at 7, and I need time to do some homework and relax a bit before the game. So we're about a third of the way through. So let's take a slight detour to something less political, more fun. Show us that shirt. That looks like a Van Halen shirt. Why? What does it say? What's your favorite musical groups?
Honestly, I cut my teeth on dance music, and that hasn't gone away. I mean, I was a DJ for a long time, and one of the things I used to do to punish my audiences if I was mad at them, I just play 80s all night.
Wouldn't the audiences like that?
Not in my circle.
I would love that. I would love that. 80s music all night. Give me that ABBA. Give me that Jackson 5. Give me that Jackson Brown. Give me all of them. Yeah. I'm 17 years old. I know these 80s music. I was raised properly. I love me some old music. Completely. I've actually just finished listening to the full collection of Steely Dan. They're not 80s. I mean, they're 60s, 70s. But speaking of Steely Dan, do we like Elton John? Queen, we stan Elton John. Are you kidding me? Of course we like Elton John. Jenny, how about you? Do you like Elton John?
He's a very talented songwriter.
Yes. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of his crooning voice. I'm just like generally not interested in that. But like, I can, even if I don't like every single song of his, oh my God, that man is a genius. Maybe what? No, he's still alive.
He has Bernie Taupin to help him with the songwriting. So,
was that true? Oh. Elton John confirmed bottom. Anyway, that's getting a little bit too sexual for our family-friendly streams.
Yeah, this is like. I mean, this is something I joke about on Twitter, but that's because my kids aren't on Twitter.
Exactly. My dad's on Twitter, but my mom isn't, and I want to keep it that way because my mom. I'm just gonna say her first name is literally Karen, and I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm not gonna say anything else. She's literally named Karen. That's all you need to know. It describes her. Nobody messes with my Fleetwood Mac. Yeah. I don't hate dirty jokes, but like, if you're 14 and you're saying dirty jokes, just cut it out. My gosh, that's just creepy. If you're like 40 and you're saying dirty jokes, I mean, I won't appreciate them, but like, if they're well done, I mean, I guess. But like, if you're my age or heck, even younger, don't say dirty jokes. Yikes. Anyway, I am okay. Chris said, I am Daddy Chris, Tad's dad. When I first came on Twitter, I thought that he was Ben's father, which was kind of unfortunate of me. And yeah, that happened. And apparently he still remembers. And he brings it up about once a week. And it's awkward every time.
It's always good to have a good grudge. You have to have a good grudge when you're an adult. It nourishes the soul.
That is true. But I am older than Chris, so I get to laugh at him every time he brings it up by mentioning that I'm older than him by about a month. And I will do that. Anyway, so one more fun question. There is a correct answer and there is an incorrect answer. And if you follow me, but I don't know if you've seen my multiple tweets when I mentioned this before. What do you prefer, the Eagles or the Beatles?
Beatles.
Yeah, that's the wrong answer. That's the wrong answer. We're moving on. It's not just the.
Oh my God! There's a great story about with punk music. Somebody commented once when some UK punks came to the US and they were hanging out in some squat. Somebody was like, I don't know what the hell you guys feel that you have to rebel against. You never had to listen to Joe Walsh.
Bobby?
Joe Walsh. Joe Walsh is like 50 years post Beatles. That doesn't make any sense.
You said the Eagles or the Beatles. But the point
Yeah.
is, that was one of the things that punk was
Cat?
rebelling against because they had all that
Cat?
they had to shove down their throat. What?
The Eagles.
Caw-caw! Caw-caw! Do the OV flap. Yeah, I'm a hockey fan. OV flap. If you've ever seen him score goals, that man is. You know what? Anyway, I can talk about my hockey love some other time. Not Joe Walsh. Oh yeah, I was thinking of Joe Walsh, the congressman. Is there another Joe Walsh?
Yeah, from the Eagles.
Oh, I don't know people's names. That was kind of awkward. Yeah, I don't know names.
Joe Walsh, Don Henley, Glenn Fry, and whoever the drummer was.
I just say the Eagles, and then I sing "Witchy Woman" as I ride off into the distance. Badly because I can't sing. I play multiple instruments, but I write music, and I mix music, but I can't sing. I do beatbox though, which is close enough. Anyway,
I could have used you. I mean, I was a DJ, so.
Ooh, I mean, at least you're like up in there with the music. When I'm writing a song, when I'm writing, I knew I was writing something. I said this was my 200 followers project. I was going to write some songs for people, and Lillian asked me for a parody of for a song, and I started writing it, and I got about a third of the way in, and then I just completely forgot, and I need to go back and I need to finish that song. Yeah. Anyway,
the only thing you ever finished that you start as a sentence.
Sometimes not even that. But listen, I have about 10 different maps or types of maps. I've finished precisely one of those sets, and I started posting it to RRH, and then I forgot about it nine states through. So I finally finished all 50 states, and then I just forgot about it as I went on to post it. All my other projects are unfinished, right? Like my GOP gerrymanders, I've done 30 states and I've forgotten about it. My Democratic gerrymanders, done about 20 states and I've forgotten about it. My school assignments, my grades weren't so good during COVID. But luckily for me, they were excellent pre-COVID, so I still passed and I still got good grades. I am worried about next year, but this past year, easy. Anyway, so we've had our fun. So let's get back to some more politically related questions. After all, that's what the viewers want, and that's why I ask you here. I am still doing the gerrymander competition, and I started reaching out to people, and then I forgot halfway through. Ironically enough, I was starting reaching out to people like Miles and a few others, and then I forgot. So. I'm kind of embarrassed about that. Yes, I am. That is a really cool idea. I have some old books that I might want to. I don't know. I don't know. Where was I? Oh yes, that reminds me. So one of many people's problems with the 2000 Florida election was in a certain county. I believe it was Palm Beach, but given that I don't know county names, I'm probably wrong. There was a certain. It was Palm Beach. Let's go. There was a certain style of ballot where normally, you do top down, left, right. You got your ballots, like you got your, Trump because he's the incumbent, and then you got Biden, and then you got Jorgensen, and then you got whatever cook the Green Party comes up with, and then the Constitution Party, the legal marijuana party now, et cetera, et cetera. And you go down, then you go down. However, this time it was slightly different. It was something called, the butterfly ballot, which we all know about, but people watching this after the fact, as opposed to live, might not know about it, so I'll go over it. It was much more of a side-to-side ballot. So where people would have expected Al Gore, they instead got Pat Buchanan. And it was very interesting. So people suspected this, and there was a statistical analysis. Elderly Jewish communities had the highest rates by far of voting for Pat Buchanan, despite the fact that he was well known for espousing anti-Semitic rhetoric. Many political scientists have theorized, probably accurately, that they meant to vote for Al Gore. What do you think? Could you explain this controversy a bit more while I go find my statistics book, which has this exact graph that I want to show the viewers?
All right, so there were a lot of problems with the butterfly ballot. Now, it was an old school punch card system where you would put your ballot card into this odd little book, and there would be holes, and you could use a stylus to punch holes physically in the ballot. And the supervisor of elections at the time was a woman named Theresa Lepore, and she was trying to create a larger print layout ballot for her voters that had vision issues. I mean, it's an elderly community, that was going to happen. So her heart was actually in the right place. The problem is the execution didn't work because the ballot itself, the holes didn't quite align up with the print. And so Pat Buchanan wound up having a closer position on the ballot to the hole that was probably meant for Al Gore than he did to the one that was probably meant for him. And the other issue, of course, was instead of saying vote for one, like most ballots tell you, this specific ballot said vote for group. And there were a lot of unintentional overvotes because people thought they were voting for a group, not just for the one candidate. Ballot design on a good day is complicated. It actually takes about 2 to 3 dozen separate computer databases to create a paper ballot. And that's not even talking about the printing.
I actually did not know that. I've been looking at some ballots, and I've always thought that it was rather easy to design. Apparently, it's not, according to Jenya.
God, honey, it's like there are no magical ballot fairies that wave a magic wand, and poof, there's this perfectly designed and laid out ballot.
Excuse me. Let me hold up my hand mirror for a quick second. I think that the phrase. Speaking of that, there's a very nice controversy on both. Oh, well, first of all. This graph, there it is, that red dot at the top, that is Palm Beach County. That is the precinct that voted strangely. There it is. Anyway, now where was I? Oh, yes. So there was a rather interesting controversy before I got on Twitter where apparently Jenya was giving some speech or something, and Governor Brian Kemp stole her phrase and used it without attribution, which on the one hand is amazing because having a governor at the time, a Secretary of State, take notes of your work would be like awesome for me. But on the other hand, it's kind of, rude, and it like infringes upon, we didn't actually copyright it, so it's legal, but it's still rude. You want to say anything about that?
I guess.
Stop. I can't. So you're like, I can't. Okay. My computer's having some issues. Could you answer that again?
Okay, so what was the question?
Basically, do you have anything you wanted to say about it? I
think it's hilarious that, a 50-something-year-old white man stole my shtick. I mean, it's funny. I mean, I actually kind of find it a compliment because it means that I've got quite a few followers who are connected to various Secretary of State's offices. So I guess I shouldn't be too upset about it, but it's just, I mean, the reason I even came up with that there's no magical ballot fairies, I got into a fight with an activist one day, and I'm just like, do you honestly think that ballots are just magically created by magical ballot fairies? It doesn't happen. It's a lot more complicated because a lot of people don't realize how election administration on its best day, it can be really difficult, and the smallest error, and you're on the 6 o'clock news for the next 20 years.
Chris, I am okay. Thank you for asking. Is this another instance where my computer froze up? Yes, what is it? Yeah, I see those. I'm sure they look fine. I'm not a very big art guy. I'm much more of a music guy. Does that say vote on it? Oh, nice. I like that. Anyway.
Meet the magical ballot fairies. I keep them with me. I keep them with me for good luck and to make sure I don't mess up the ledgers.
Who painted them or drew them, as the case may be?
I did.
Nice. So anyway, I am okay. During my Dungeons and Dragons sessions, so my computer is ancient and it's very, very slow, very poor. I freeze up constantly, and often in the middle of saying words, so it looks awkward, and I get turned into something called a meme, and that's also awkward. Chris wants to say that he likes the pictures. Chris wants to say that he likes the pictures. Anyway, so where was I? Oh yeah, he wants to send you the memes, which is probably fine because like it's awkward enough that I just don't care. I mean, you made them, right? They're yours. Anyway, so next up, so Leon Election Twitter are a varied bunch, except that we're basically all young, all white, all gay. I don't know why. But anyway, that's not what I wanted to talk about. What I wanted to talk about was was the phrase election Twitter. Now I know where it originated, and many of us do as well. Would you like to explain where it originated? The phrase election Twitter and the hashtag.
It was just, honestly, it was a one-off. I was running the social media department at the US Vote Foundation, and as a 501c3, you can't talk about politics or political candidates. It's taken to mean an endorsement. So we couldn't post
I can't see your face. The picture is blocking your face, unfortunately.
So anyway, what happened was there was politics Twitter, and I think there was hashtag NC Paul and whatever the state was in Paul. And we couldn't join those discussions because we had to remain completely nonpartisan. Otherwise, the IRS gets involved, and you don't want the IRS involved. They're a little crabby. So I just started using election Twitter just to talk about upcoming elections, because that was one of the things that our site offered. Was it used to tell you where all the special elections were going to be and when, and that was a really neat feature that the site had. So it was just sort of something that grew out from there. You know, it was nothing. It was not like, I didn't realize that it was going to like blow up like it did. That was a complete fluke. I was surprised. You know, basically for the most part, it was mostly just me yelling into the void, and then a lot of the folks who were the early mappers were on there, and then some more senior election officials joined. But initially it was just, you know, me ranting into a void and trying not to get yelled at by my boss in the IRS.
Ooh, yikes! So on top of that, so I was talking to you via direct messaging, and we were talking about that while it's, you know, it's a very great, it's usually a great community, kind of nice, close knit. For example, me personally, you know, I have very wacky political views compared to most people in ET. Not that I'm a conservative, but I'm eclectic. I only have one person on election Twitter blocked, and I'm only blocked by one person on election Twitter. You know, it's a great place. It's like family. However, we were mentioning that there is a problem with female representation on election Twitter. Oftentimes, you mentioned that women sometimes go overlooked or have their accomplishments stolen. So we all know that the women from Ladies Night Out, you, Johanna, and Sarah Stuck. I actually don't know Johanna's last name, or I would mention it. So I'm gonna try and be as polite as possible. I just don't know her last name. Are invaluable resources to. I had even prepared this question. I swear I prepared this question. It was okay. This is really darn embarrassing. So whatever. I am so sorry. This is awkward. I'm just gonna say, do you have any female election Twitter members you would like to shout out to tell us to follow? Mention their content.
All right. Well, definitely Sarah at Happy Elect Nerd. She's wonderful. 704 Heather. She's pretty much she's the actual den mother of election Twitter. I'm the twitchy, insane auntie that they keep locked up in the attic.
Don't be so hard on yourself like that.
You know, of course, there's Joanna and Sarah Stuck. I absolutely love both of them to pieces, and they have amazing election insights. And they do so much compared to what I do. You know, it's like I feel like a slacker next to them. And there's a lot of really wonderful female election officials out there. Rachel Rodriguez, Anna Bevito, Tabitha Lehman, Brianna Lennon, Amber McReynolds. It's like these, I mean, women pretty much do, without most election administrators of any level are female.
You mentioned that on Twitter, which was what gave me the idea to give you this question, because I did not know that. I just assumed they were generally male, and I learned something.
If you go to the average election office, especially in Florida, you are going to find that there are very few straight white men there. That has a much higher member of the population that is LGBT. There are far more ethnic minorities who work there, and it's nice to see. It's nice to see true representation. So it's like when people talk about voter suppression, all the evil plots. It's like sometimes I want to ask. I want you to go to the registration department of any election department in a decent sized city and take a look around, and you're going to notice that it's not you're not going to get snowblind like you think you're going to. It is a much more diverse and interesting group of people, particularly women who are working there, who work their tails off for relatively low pay, and I don't think get nearly the credit they deserve for the most part keeping elections going. I mean, yes, there are some administrators who have had issues, but that's a separate topic. And, you know, it's like if we want true gender equality, we have to admit that There are very competent men, very competent women, very competent non-binaries, and there are also just as many incompetent of all genders.
Yes, just as many. Luckily for me, I have had nobody try to take my maps and pass them off as your own. But I've had people blatantly copy my content. That's unfortunate, but I do it better than they do anyway. That's why I have Maryland's most marvelous map maker in my tag. I am the most marvelous map maker if you've seen my maps. I am doing some self-promo. I am good at gerrymandering. I will butcher your state. No matter what party you are, I will say screw you and tell you it doesn't matter who you vote for because this candidate is going to win. Unless you know. Anyway, so now so let's see. What other questions did I remind myself to talk about and then forget? So I prepared quite a few questions. We haven't gone through all of them, but I've been forgetting. I forget a lot of things. I'm not good at remembering things. So since we're about 2/3 of the way through, let's take another non-political sort of break while I try and remember what other political questions I was going to ask. Do you have so what's the weather like now that you're in? Do you get out hiking every day, for example?
In California or
No,
Florida?
Florida.
Florida, it is pouring pitchforks outside right now.
Pouring pitchforks? I'm not aware of that phrase.
It's a heavy rain.
It was pouring.
We're expecting a hurricane next week.
Oh my. So I have never had a hurricane in my lifetime. We've had some earthquakes, some flash floods, but never any hurricanes.
I'd rather deal with an earthquake than a hurricane. I've been through both.
I would too. Yes. Hi.
Yes. I got something. We had a hurricane once here. I done a second time. We had once here. When my Abba was gone.
That was Irma.
That was Irma?
Yes, Hurricane Irma.
No, I mean, the lights went out.
Okay, I mean that generally lights do go out when power surges happen.
Well, we didn't have power for a couple of weeks. That was kind of the pain in the butt.
The worst we've had was I think 2 days, maybe 3 days without power. A couple years ago, there was a 2-foot blizzard. If you know what snow is, it's small, white, flaky, cold. SoCal?
Yes, California gets snow. Florida gets ice. Florida will get an ice storm every so often. But I do know what snow is. I used to ski.
Oh, lucky. I went skiing once and it was really fun, but it was too expensive and we couldn't come back. But I'm glad I've had the experience. Robert Stewart has asked, do y'all have pets? So I'll answer first and then you can answer. I do not have pets because my sister is a buffoon and kind of a jerk, and she refuses to get to get any pet that isn't a dog, but she isn't competent enough to take care of a dog, so we don't have any pets. However, we do have about 400 stuffed animals that my parents have been collecting since before they got married, and that now I've been collecting. I have about 3 dozen cats, and a few foxes, some assorted animals. Walter is my profile picture and the face of my Twitter account. Grayson is the cute, adorable foxy that has kept me alive. I got Eeyore, I got Andres the pheasant. My Gruff, which I got when I was like 5 years old or something, after watching one of those Tinkerbell movies. I can't remember which one, but it was the one with the big animal in it. And we got four different ones. Me, my sister, my mom, and my dad, one for each of us, and they're all called Gruff. Cats are greater than dogs. Yep, Albi has said cats are better than dogs, and I would like to say thank you. Yes, the big chicken. I'll show you. I'll get the big chicken at some time. Do you have any pets?
I have a lot of cats, and I have a pit bull dachshund mix.
Sorry, how many cats?
How many cats do we have? Well, one of the kittens that we adopted off the street actually just gave birth to a litter herself. So right now, I think we have 11 cats.
We also have Vinny.
Oh yeah, if you count Vinny, that's 12, and if you count Roscoe, that's 13.
Are those street cats that come to you guys a lot?
Roscoe was somebody else's cat that got abandoned, and he basically just likes us for food. And then Vinny and Mystic Mystic we found out was pregnant. She was a kitten herself, so we didn't want her to give birth outside, so just dragged her inside. Absolutely. And she gave birth to 3 absolutely adorable little kittens, Tabitha, Tawny, and Tiberius.
And we
So
have
Albi, I misread. So what Albi actually said is, dogs are better than cats. But then he corrected himself by saying the other way around, Tad. So I was still right, but I misread him. I would like to point that out. You guys are lucky as all get out. I would love having 13 cats. 13 is just a good number in general.
Well, cats are God's way of telling us that not everything in nature has a purpose. They don't do, they just are.
Exactly. I remember when I was when I name a Chris wants you to name a cat after me. That would be awesome. That would be awesome. Anyway, so let me see. Oh yes, so I remember years ago when I was younger, and I was my former chess coach was still not retired. He was still giving lessons. He and his wife had adopted a rescue cat who had been brutally beaten and mistreated by her family, her previous family, especially the children. And despite how good I am with cats, cats love me. They just do. It's not even arrogance. Listen, cats who have never seen me before, who have never known human contact, will come up to me and get petted. I was walking to my therapist one day and I saw a street cat and I petted it for 10 minutes and arrived late. Like, legit, cats love me. And anyway, so this cat was so poorly abused that in my 2 years of having weekly lessons, I only managed to get to pet her once. I just want to say that I hope Willow finds a good, loving home in cat heaven, given that if she's still alive, she would be 18 right now. So I hope that she is very happy. Tad used Twitch, it slaps. I don't know the lingo, but I do believe slaps is a good thing. Maybe I should use Twitch. I don't know. Tad, stick to YouTube. Okay, maybe. Sure. I mean, I'm sure that I can broadcast to Twitch and YouTube at the same time, right? Like, I'll figure out a way. Anyway, so back to cats. Follow Black Lab Olive. They are a funny Twitter account, but they are a dog and not a cat, so they are not top tier. Like Walter is. Wow, you cute. Anyway. Oh, Shwetha's here. Hi, Shwetha. Twitch seems like a debating website. Anyway, so sorry. So for the people who are joining, I've been rambling for about 10 minutes and interviewing for about 45, and I predict this pattern will continue. Thanks to Jenya for putting up with my comments. So a lot of people in chat are my friends from real life. Great, nice people. Like, they're the kind of people that are really nice as long as you keep the topic away from politics. Like, you stay away from politics and they are just amazing to be around. Just honestly, just great people. Some of them have graduated, so but like, anyway, back to cats, and then we'll go back to politics. So, cats. So how many cats would you have in your if you had a perfect world, you had all the money all the time, how many cats would you have?
I think I don't think I'd go more than the number I have. It's like between the outdoors and the indoors, 13's more than enough. It's a baker's dozen.
I read about someone who had 28 cats once. I'm like, oh my god, that would be awesome, but I would not be able to take care of them.
Yeah, you never want anything. You don't ever want more than what you can take care of.
Because then it's just bad for everything.
Yeah.
Do you get your cats toys like a scratching post or like a fluffer or like a ball or a tube?
They like socks. I swear to God, every sock in the entire house is the domain of one of my cats, and he'll play fetch with it.
That is adorable. That is actually adorable. So all right, back to politics. So we had a bit longer of a break than I was expecting. So you were from California 25, as we mentioned earlier. Have you ever actually visited the Reagan Library or the Nixon Library?
Yes, I have actually. They're absolutely beautiful facilities. The Reagan Library is in a much more stunning location. I will say that. It's right off Rocky Peak Road in Simi Valley. The Nixon Library, I think it's just, you can tell Nixon's ghost is there and he's happy.
He's happy.
He's happy to be for a neurotic Quaker,
Bobby,
Be what? I couldn't hear you.
I said Nixon's ghost is as happy as possible for a tormented and neurotic Quaker.
Bobby,
He was a Quaker? Oh boy.
Yeah, he's Quaker. Whittier had this huge enclave of Quakers at one point in California.
Bobby.
Pennsylvania. So I was talking to Tony, a professor of political science at Towson University, former 2018 Maryland Senate candidate, and a personal friend of mine. He's a wonderful person. About political trends, and he during our interview last couple weeks ago, he happened to mention that he spent his childhood before going to the military in southwestern Pennsylvania. I realized that my father spent his childhood in southwestern Pennsylvania, so I'm going to talk to you about southwestern Pennsylvania because I want to, and it's my show, and you're here at my pleasure and my torment. Ha 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 ha. I'm sorry. So southwestern Pennsylvania, very, very stable town, stable area politically wise, demographic wise, population wise. It's been stagnating. He's just my internet friend. Internet friends. Has been stagnating population wise. It's been stagnating demographic wise. It's very politically the same, unions, blue dogs. However, over the past 20 or so years, it's gone an enormous migration from conservative Democrats to conservative Republicans, as has much of the rest of the Rust Belt and that sort of area in eastern Ohio, in western Pennsylvania, in Illinois, downstate, in that whole Midwest Rust Belt areas. Do you think that this is going to continue? Do you think that there's a good way for the Democrats to win these ancestral white working class voters back?
Good luck. They're going to need it. This part of the issue is if Republicans suddenly turned around and supported unions, I think that we would have had more ancestral Republicans because my grandfather was from southeastern Pennsylvania, Mahanoy City, actually. So he was a union organizer and he was a master mechanic for Mack trucks. So for him, he was probably, the Union Democrats are socially, they're relatively conservative. They get married young, they've got big families, a lot of them are Catholic, and everything for them, it's about their trade, their life is their trade in their country. And for a long time, they were some of the most politically active Americans that we have. Most of those guys are dying off now. And so they created kind of a vacuum in the Democratic Party where Democratic Party has now gone, having any sort of conservatism as a Democrat is kind of considered taboo or non-inclusive. So the working class voters, by the way, of all races, wasn't just white people working in the unions and working in the mills. They feel like they've been abandoned by the party, and even if they don't really like a lot of the Republican jingoism and racism, they'd still rather put up with it if it means that they're going to get some representation and at least their livelihood's going to be semi-protected.
Piggyback on this point, a friend of mine on Twitter sent me a poll. I can't remember from where, but I looked up the pollster and it was reputable. Unfortunately, I can't remember where, so y'all just have to trust me on this. But you guys know my policy on lying. I never do it, right? Like, it's just a dumb idea. When you lie once, no one trusts you again. I stopped lying years ago, and I've never gone back, and I honestly like it this way. Sure, it's awkward when I say, for example, you're fucking ugly, and then people get mad at me, but I don't lie. Anyway, so about this pollster, and it said that there were black voters above 65 years of age had something like a minus 80 approval rating of the President Donald Trump, but black voters under 30 years of age were minus 40. And I found that to be very interesting. I was wondering, do you believe that's a generational shift? Do you believe that's temporary? What is this? What's this for? It's basically like a linear. I
think it's a little too early to tell, quite honestly. And there are some large generational gaps. I mean, that the generation gap is a thing. So somebody who's under 30 definitely is not going to be having the same mindset as somebody over, say, 75. And that's just because when you're 75, you've got a lot more life experience, good and bad. When you're under 30, you don't have quite the same frame of reference as somebody who's older does. And also, I think when we get older, we all tend to get a little bit more set in our ways. And when you're under 30, you're more extreme, but you're more likely to have your viewpoint change within the next 15 years.
Oh yeah, like when I first started getting politically engaged in like 14, I went through like I did the meme where you go through like 5 different political ideologies in 1 year just because I didn't know anything. And you know, ever since then, like obviously my shifts have been slowing down as I've gotten older and more mature, but you know, like I've still shifted dramatically on some positions, just fewer than I used to. Like in the past, you know, I'd go from a diehard alt-right to a freaking pinko, but nowadays I just go from center-right to center-left. And you know, people do slow down a lot as they get older. Absolutely. As you know, life experience happens. They also is someone saying something? Nah, probably just background noise.
Tad.
Oh.
Molly was gonna say something about Vinny, I think.
That was the previous discussion. We're talking about politics now, honey.
What? Come on, we talked about him.
He's relatively apolitical.
I figured. Shifting relatable, yeah. There's nothing wrong with shifting your beliefs, depending on how you do it, of course. So let's go to gerrymandering, because that's one of my favorite topics. And yes, I will correct you if you pronounce it gerrymandering, because that's just not how it's pronounced, and I will die on this hill. Gerrymandering. So on the topic of gerrymandering, 2020s. What states see the most gerrymandering, and why?
Well, California. I mean, it's a gerrymander done by the left rather than the right, but it's still gerrymander, as you would say. Obviously, I think Wisconsin and Pennsylvania and a lot of parts of the Midwest are very heavily gerrymandered. The South, I think it depends on which state you're in. Florida is and it isn't, which is probably why it's considered an inelastic state with very elastic borders. But on the other hand,
very elastic borders? What do you mean by very elastic borders?
The state itself has relatively rigid political ideologies depending on where you are, but where the line is drawn, where it separates, that delineates the people, the ideology, that surprisingly stretches. There's one county, that's right outside where mine is, I think Hillsborough. Hillsborough is mostly red. They have a Green Party faction there. I swear to God.
Speaking of the Green Party, trivia question that you probably know the answer to: which state Republican Party spent thousands of dollars getting signatures so that the Green Party could make it on the ballot and siphon votes away from Democrats in the past couple years?
It sounds like Florida, but I'm probably wrong.
You are. It's Montana.
Montana.
It didn't help them, but it was very humorous that they spent about $10,000 registering Green Party voters so that there would be enough of them so that it would get on the ballot so that Democrats would win fewer votes. And it's just obviously, if the Democrats did that with the Libertarians and the Republicans, I would hate it, but I'd still appreciate it. I'd hate it, but I'd appreciate it.
Well, you kind of have to admire the cojones. I mean, that really took some.
Yes. So now, so you mentioned California. For those of you who don't know, California technically is drawn by, as of the 2010s, has been drawn by an independent commission. However, ProPublica did an expose that revealed that state and national Democrats set up fake citizens committee. You read it? Yes, you did. A lot of people have read it, but not everybody. So I will say this live. That state and national Democrats set up fake citizen interest coalitions on 50. I don't remember what the official was. I think it's 501c4s, but I can't remember because I don't know names and stuff. That basically, like, they made the San Jacinto Farmers Coalition. I can't remember, but it was for the Central Valley. It was created that year. It had no members. It was all just to give Democrats extra seats, and they did. They gained about 5 or 6 extra seats than they were supposed to gain. Nowadays, Republicans in 2018 won about 30% of the vote and won 7 of the 53 House seats. Obviously, in the 2020s, that is still going on. But now on top of that, Eric Cunningham and our other good friends at Elections Daily did a show that realized that Democrats picked Democratic Republicans. And I don't mean Jefferson Democratic Republicans. I mean rhinos. I mean, not just like me, not like me rhino, not like a Larry Hogan rhino, like rhinos, like pro-choice, pro-taxes, pro everything, pro-higher government spending, like those sorts of Republicans who were previously Democrats, but then switched so that they could be Republicans on the commission. And I wonder how that's going to turn out. Yes, Arizona and Colleen Mathis did it, but that was a different problem. The Democrats were Democrats and the Republicans were Republicans. However, Arizona was stupid enough to have a commission that was 2-2-1 with only one independent, and then they picked a Democrat to be the independent. So that was a slightly different problem. Eric and Adam Trencher, a good friend of ours, did an excellent debate on that. I personally think Eric came out on top, but Adam Trencher had a very, very, very persuading article. It was also a good one. I think Eric just, it just was a gerrymander. Like, it just flat out is. So it's really hard to argue when you're just, wrong. But boy, did Trencher pull it off. That man is smart. Oh, my God, that man is smart. Boy. Anyway, so we're going to move off from gerrymandering for a while, other than to say that Maryland Democrats skew. Why did you have to draw out moderate Bartlett and leave in far-right semi-Nazi-ish Harris? He's just a bad guy. Anyway, so who is your favorite House of Representative member? Not Don Young. And who is your favorite senator? Not Jerry Peters.
That's a good question.
And I'm saying this not because you would like either of them, but because election Twitter as a whole loves them.
That's a good question, and I guess it would depend on what category, because there are some who do really brilliant policy, but basically they're so busy chasing national glory that they kind of forget about the folks back home that they represent. And then there are others who do amazing things for the people that they represent, but they're kind of, nationally they just don't garner that much attention.
We'll do a series of questions. If you were given $1 million and got to move to anywhere in Florida, which representative would you want to represent you in Florida?
That's a good question. I mean, Florida has I think Florida's got better local politicians than they do national level politicians, quite frankly.
I can see that. Although I do enjoy me some Marco Rubio. I do. I'm probably going to get canceled for that.
Marco Rubio tanked in 2016 in this area, mostly because he wouldn't bother to come up here. That's the thing about Central Florida. I can tell you, we like to be able to sit on the porch and have a sweet tea with our candidates. And if you don't bother to show up here, they're not going to vote for you.
That reminds me. So is your sweet tea ridiculously sweet like my uncles in Georgia are?
I hate sweet tea with the fire of 1,000 suns. I don't put any sugar in my tea. I kind of like, it's like and the funny thing is I'm a junk food person, but I like my pancreas. I don't want it to go into shock here.
Sometimes I put sugar in my tea, sometimes I leave it black. I rarely drink sweet tea. I do drink sweet tea when I go down to Georgia and visit my gay uncles in suburban Atlanta. I don't know why I mentioned that they're gay, but I did. I mean, they're open about it, and they've been open about it for decades. It was a great moment for the family when they got to marry when Georgia passed the law. Great people. They recently lost their dog to cancer, which is kind of sad. But he was over a decade old. It was his time. There's still the statue of him outside the door. Patrick Murphy. Yes. Now, what was I going to say next? What representative do you think, putting aside politics, putting aside all political affiliations, what representative do you think, puts in the time in his or her district? Goes there every week, does local things, doesn't care about the national glory, just works hard for their districts. Let's actually make it one Democrat and one Republican so that we can make it a bit easier.
Who actually got my respect was Will Hurd from Texas. Will Hurd was, genuinely, when they started interning children in the camps at the border, Will Hurd was the first person to actually go out there and ask what the hell is going on, what is happening. And he was willing to go against his own party to do this. So he will always have my respect for that. And on the left, I'm sad she's out of office. I think Katie Hill definitely put in the time and the elbow grease. Like, I mean, yeah, I picked Mark Garcia, but it doesn't mean that my heart wasn't broken over the whole Katie Hill thing.
I heard nothing but bad things about her. Like not just with the thruples, but I've just heard nothing about bad things about her. Like even before the scandal. So I'd be curious to know why you like her.
She got stuff passed. I mean, the amount of legislation she was able to get passed was leaps and bounds ahead of where most freshman congressmen would be. And she also showed that she had leadership ability, and she was the Pelosi whisperer. Now, that's probably not the case anymore, but yes, she was able to curry favor with Nancy Pelosi, and that's, relatively speaking, difficult to do, especially in California.
I will always not just hate Nancy Pelosi for her politics, but also hate Nancy Pelosi because I'm from Maryland and Steny Hoyer deserved to be speaker. So even if I become a Democrat, I will always support Hoyer over Pelosi. Michaela Wilkes, his primary challenger, actually followed me on Twitter, and I asked her if she wanted to come on the show. She said she was too busy, but nothing wrong with that. And then she unfollowed me when I told her I didn't support her. Like, I wasn't even rude. I was just like, hey, thanks so much for following me. I'm just letting you know I don't support you, but it's great that you're following people who are different.
You can't get away with that stuff if you want a career in politics, though. It's basically, politics is the art of suffering fools gladly and still keeping a smile on your face.
What do you mean by that?
You have to be diplomatic. Because the thing is, it's like the toes you step on today are invariably connected to the ass you have to kiss tomorrow. So it's like you always want to just smile and say, okay, don't worry, thank you so much, I appreciate it, because eventually they'll come around. Politics is, people do, people forget. Sometimes they'll reject you, and then like a week later they're like, wait, why did I reject this person? So you just have to, you smile and you nod.
Absolutely. So let's do another electoral question. If you were to get to dictate 10 million, I know Pelosi is from Maryland as well. That's why I don't like her. She left us. I know she's from Maryland. I'm very well aware. Anyway, if you were, let's say you were given $10 million and you had to spend it all in one state for the Biden campaign, which state would you choose?
Honestly, Texas or Florida.
And for the Trump campaign?
The Trump campaign, I would say North Carolina and Illinois.
Illinois? Why Illinois? Is it for the 3 flippable races?
This is the thing about California 25. I don't have a rhyme or reason. I go by instinct, and that's just, there's certain areas where, like I said, I think Trump lost a lot of support with, especially working class and rural voters. They've got a lot of those there in Illinois, and although Cook County's reliably blue, some of the other counties aren't so much.
And then just for fun, the Jorgensen campaign.
Say again?
If you had to spend $10 million for a state for the Jorgensen campaign, just for fun. You whistle? Okay, I did not know you could whistle.
Oh, I can whistle. I used to be able to whistle old film scores. For Jorgensen, I'd say maybe New York or Minnesota.
And then, okay. Then let's see. Obviously, there are the politicians that everyone loves and everyone hates. People love Susan Collins. People hate Ted Cruz. People love, I'm trying to think of some good ones in the Democrats. I'm not really in tune with them as much. I guess Alaska, yeah, makes sense. Alaska has a lot of high people there, of libertarian leaning people. I guess for Democrats, like people love Barack Obama. People hate, Bill Clinton.
Well, that's new. Clinton was Teflon.
That is new. That's new. That is new. That's fair. That's new. Yeah, I guess that's a good point. But I guess then like Walter Mondale. Everyone loves him.
Mondale was a very fine person. I'm not sure people were all that excited about him.
Mondale? I don't know. I I kind of like him, but that's only because he ran against Reagan, and like I just love it when people get creamed by Reagan. I do. I'm sorry, I do. It's a pet. It's a habit of mine. I even love Carter, and like he messed up everything, but I love him because he lost to Reagan.
You know what?
So-
I have a Carter Mondale button I'll have to send you.
Ted,
Oh, is your son saying something again?
Yes.
Okay.
Mom, Moby, are you gonna talk about Vinny?
He wants to mention his kitty Vinny, so he's
Sure,
He's
why
getting
not? Why not?
upset. So you're gonna talk about Vinny?
No, you're gonna talk about Vinny.
All right. So what do I say about Vinny?
Moby, can you just tell about all about Vinny? You know him?
All right.
All about Vinny?
Vinny's a mackerel tabby. He's the father of our cat Mystic's kittens, and he likes following people around the neighborhood. I think his real name is Pablo, but he doesn't look like a Pablo. He looks like a Vinny.
Wait, that's not all.
Then why don't you tell him?
No, that's not all. We need Vinny. We can't bring Vinny into our house.
Well, we just have to give him a flea bath, okay? All right. I think I'm gonna have to cut our interview a little bit short, if that's okay.
Wait,
We've been-
don't cut off your interview. Don't kill your interview.
Then you need to calm down.
Please talk more about
How about I'm gonna remove you from the stream for a couple minutes because that way people won't be able to hear you, and I'll bring you back in about 2 minutes. I think that's good for everyone. Is that reasonable?
Dad, don't do it. Dad, do
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Okay,
That's
I
fine.
won't. Okay. So, I will bring the wonderful Miss Coulter, your clerkness back as soon as possible. So in the meantime, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the plans by Robert Stewart. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it. So I'm just going to talk about my plans for future streams. I'm gonna so next week on Tuesday I am interviewing Scott Tressler, a very good friend of mine, another homosexual Republican. He is a great guy. I mean, he's a conservative Trumpist Republican, but he registers voters all around the country. No matter what their politics are, he registers liberal Democrats, he registers Greens, he registers Libertarians, he registers everyone. And then I also have some other interviews coming up. I'm trying to get Texas 32 candidate Genevieve Collins on the show. And I'm also trying to get Virginia 5 candidate Cameron Webb on the show. Besides those interviews, I have some episodes on Rosex Maps planned out, and I have some other fun things. F. Okay, she just left permanently, so I guess the last 8 minutes will be me talking. Wow, we interviewing? Yeah, we will. Yes, I think. I don't know actually Xenia's sexual orientation. I don't want to make a guess because that would be rude. I'm not going to do that. But yes, I do like interviewing the gays, as the saying goes. Now where was I? Oh yes, and I have some shows, some Rosex Maps coming up that I have in the works. I got some songs to write. Got a lot of things to do. Jenny is bisexual. Okay, I mean, okay. Interview. Oh, she's back. Hey.
I'm so sorry about that. I hit the wrong button.
So we were talking about my interview with Scott Tressler on the 4th, and my bisexual friend, I think Shweta, I never remember anything, so I'm gonna hope I got it right. Said, "Wow, we interviewing homosexuals love it." I think you're homosexual too, right? You're bisexual.
Yes.
Hey, 2 in 2 weeks. We got this. As I mentioned at the very beginning of the stream, 30% of election Twitter is LGBT, and it's insane, and I love it.
Is that low? I thought it was higher than that, actually.
Drew told me it was 30%, but maybe it's higher. I don't know. I mean, I trust Drew, I guess. Drew Savicki, he works with 270 to win. Yes, love it.
Close to 40, but if Drew did the math, then I trust his numbers.
I have no idea if he did the math. He just told me it was 30%, and I just trusted him. I didn't think twice. We got a little derailed, so I have a question for you.
Yes.
What from you purely partisan perspective, nonpartisan, whatever, what do you think about the Lincoln Project?
I don't know enough about them to really issue an opinion, quite frankly.
Okay, no, that's a good answer. So as I mentioned, while you were had hit the wrong button, I've been in contact with the communications director for Genevieve Collins' campaign and the communications director for Cameron Webb's campaign to get some partisan diversity as well there. If I were to who would you want to see me interview? Any congressional candidates from a safe seat, from swing seat, no matter what, just someone, who would you want me to interview?
Let's see. I would like to see you. If you could get an interview with Adam Hattersley, is the candidate in poll 15 running for Ross Spano's seat. An interview with either him or Ross Spano would be fascinating, just to see the questions he'd ask.
Democrat? Adam is a Democrat?
Ross Spano's the Republican, Hattersley is the Democrat.
I know Spano's the Republican. That Spano's the one with the scandals, right? I can never remember whether that's him or Buchanan.
A Florida politician without scandals is like a day without sunshine.
So it is Spano. I have no idea what happened to FW. I was talking to him a couple of days ago, but I guess you're right. He has been kind of inactive lately. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, I will reach out to them. I do like interviewing people, even though there are only about like 20 or 10 to 20 different unique people on the stream at any time. I still had fun I'm still having fun enjoying interviewing you, even though we're kind of preaching to an empty choir. But like, it is what it is, and I think that I'll blow up a lot more when I start interviewing Scott, because I'm going to get him to retweet it, and he has 700,000 followers. So we'll get a lot of people watching this in video form. So but yeah, I do like interviewing, and I would love to interview some congressional candidates. I've never actually done a debate. I've done round tables before at my high school. But I've never actually been able to do a debate. I've done 2. Yeah, it is mostly Chris and you. Yeah, but like some of my MBHS friends have shown up. Some of my Maryland friends have shown up. But like, honestly, having a small friendly chat is also fun. Where was I? Oh yes. So yeah, I did 2 roundtables at my high school. One in 2018 pre-midterms, and one in 2019 I think state legislatures. 3 Republicans, 3 Libertarians, right? I am the political operatives director for the Young Republicans Club, not the Young Democrats. But I do plan to be much more nonpartisan on this show. I do plan to interview people from all sorts of the political spectrum. It just happens to be not coincidence that are you Republican registered?
I do not have a political affiliation, nor do I intend to.
Okay, so then it is just a coincidence that both of my 2 of my first 3 interviews are with Republicans. I'd say it's not just a coincidence, but it's that I have a lot of connections with local, state, and national Republicans that I don't have with Democrats, just by virtue of my affiliation. So I'm mostly starting out with Republicans, but I feel like I do want to interview some Democrats, and maybe once this channel goes bigger, I'll be able to do so. It's not that I don't want to cover Democrats, it's just that I don't know any. Like, I know Tony, I worked on his campaign, I brought him into my school, he's a great guy. Like, I know Scott, right? Like, I know these people, I just don't know the Democrats I'd like to interview. I reached out to some. I tried to reach out to Elise Galvin, but she doesn't have any contact info. I tried to reach out to some local Democrats, right? Like, for most of my viewers, for example, are liberal Democrats. I do plan on interviewing some liberal Democrats. Yes, I do. Ben and I've been talking about possibly debating. I'm not opposed to it. Neither am I for it. Like, I don't see a problem with that. I do not plan to interview that other person you mentioned. Nor do I plan to mention him, because you know what? I don't need to. I'd like to stay positive. So we got about 2 minutes left in the interview. So I'm gonna give you one final question. Shoot, I had a closing question. I did, but now I forgot, because I forget a lot of things. So I guess, is there anything you would want to mention that we haven't already covered?
All right. If you're going to be voting by mail, because there's a couple of late summer primaries coming up, if you have the opportunity to put your ballot in a ballot drop box, please take it. Right now, USPS, it's kind of all over the place, and they said they're expecting delays with delivery. So once you get your mail ballot, vote and then sign.
I'm back.
You heard it here from the Queen Ballot Fairy herself. Vote and sign. Thank you. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. Really, really great conversation. I'm sorry we didn't get too many viewers, but I still enjoyed it. Your son was awesome. I like hearing about your cats. music is good. And I look forward to seeing you some other time. This was wonderful. I'm so glad you came on. And yeah, excuse me, until next Tuesday, not Wednesday. My more normal streams are on Tuesday. This was just delayed because of her work. Normally my streams are on Tuesday. So until Tuesday, August 4th. Stay strong, everyone. This has been Rosex Maps signing off.
All right, thank you. Bye.